All right, what's up guys? So I'm gonna do a quick video showing you how you can make money when you acquire a property subject to, right? So you acquire the property subject to, you take over the current mortgage, and now what? Where do you actually make money? Do you put a renter in the property? Do you turn it into an Airbnb? Do you sell it on a wrap? What do you do? And what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna show you how you can evaluate a subject to deal and then how you can potentially make money on it. So stick around, don't forget to like, subscribe, let's go. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you kind of a real-time breakdown of a property that I just closed on subject to. I'm gonna show you how I structured everything, how I'm making money on the deal, and I'm gonna do it with the property that I literally just closed on. So I wanna show it to you because it's awesome, and it's a cute little crib down in St. Petersburg, and you can see the inside is pretty much, it's all dialed. It doesn't need any work. It's you know, the property is fantastic. It needs literally no rehab or nothing. So that's the property, and yeah, that's that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring you to my calculator. I'm gonna show you how I scrub this deal. One of the things that you should know is when I'm doing these numbers, here, I am just initially, I'm scrubbing the deal. I wanna do it at like 30,000 feet, right? So I wanna get an idea of like, what is the cost to get into this property? How can I potentially make money once I buy it? I need to know what that looks like. And when I'm initially just writing like proposals or getting ready to send a letter of intent, I want to be able to do that fast. Like I don't want to spend all day going through some calculator that has 800 places to put all kinds of hypothetical scenarios, if-thens. I just want to know, like, first, is this a potential deal? If everything was like worked in my favor, if everything was perfect, would it work? Because sometimes if everything is perfect and it doesn't work, I immediately know I'm out. I don't want to spend any more time looking at this. So this particular form is used for that. It's used to just go in, get an idea if the deal works. But I'm going to use it to show you exactly the structure of this deal and how I am making money on it. So the first thing we need to do is we always need to get an idea of what the entry fee is going to be, okay? And that is basically, what that means is, excuse me, when it's time to close and we're signing documents, I'm going to have to send money to somebody. The question is how much money is that? I need to know what that number is. So I'm going to show you how we find it, okay? And this is not, doesn't cover all of the things, right? There are definitely scenarios where there are other expenses, but this covers most of them, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is just go through and answer these questions. What does the seller want as a down payment? So this seller wanted $40,000 as a down payment. And then it asks, what is the seller behind on the mortgage? Are there any liens? And this would be for somebody who's in like a foreclosure situation, or if maybe there's like a secondary lien on the property, maybe they owe somebody money or whatever. This is where we would put that number. They are not behind, there was no arrears, so I'm gonna put a 0 there. The next thing is going to be the cost to get the lead, the wholesale fees, agent commissions, referral costs. So if an agent were to bring this property to me off because it's off market and they want some sort of referral fee, this is where I would put that number. Now, I went direct to seller on this, so there is no referral fees, there are no agent fees, but this is where I would put it. One thing that I did do is I borrowed money to close this deal. So I'm going to explain that to you in a second, and I'm just going to put the number in here now because I'm going through it. It's going to cost me about $1,500 to borrow this entry fee. So I'm going to put that number in there, and then I'm going to explain how I got to that number. So how much goes to the closing attorneys, the title company? That number, it was about $3,000. Closing costs, preparing the home for rent, meaning or sale or Airbnb. This would be things like furnishings, pest controls, remodel and rehab, cleaning services. If I was going to keep the property and Airbnb it myself, then I would need to put furniture in there. And so I would need to know what that number is going to be in order for me to calculate how much money I need to come out of pocket. So this property currently has a renter in it. So I'm not doing an Airbnb, so I don't have any expense related to that. So I'm just going to hit 0. The amount needed while the space is vacant or not sold, this would be rent, mortgage payment, utilities, prep fees. So I'm gonna sell this property on a wrap, which means I'm gonna sell it to another buyer. I'm gonna sell it to an end buyer. And during the time it takes me to list it, and get it to an end buyer, there's going to be, like, I have a mortgage payment because I've now taken over the property subject to. So this would be a potential cost. The mortgage payment is about $3,400 a month. So if I was going to do it for 3 months, meaning I was going to allocate 90 days of hold time, I'd have to take that $3,400 times 3. I think that's around $10,100 or something. Just call it 10 grand or 9 grand, 10 grand. I think it's 10.2 or something. This is where I would put that number. But the thing is that I have a renter in there and they're paying rent. It's negatively cash flowing. It's one of the reasons I was able to buy the property subject to. So I need to put that negative cash flow amount in this space. Right now it's negative cash flowing about $500 a month. So it's going to cost me about $1,500 to hold the property for 3 months while I sell it to somebody else, while I sell it on a wrap. Marketing fees associated to find someone to fill the space. Okay, now this is going to be like, first I'm going to put the property on the MLS. And so I'm going to do that through a flat fee listing service. So I have to pay them to put it on the MLS for me. It's like $100. There can be some other fees. I'm always ultra conservative. I want to like overestimate any fees, any costs, any of that stuff, because I don't want to come up short and then lose money. Rule number 1 in this game is don't lose money. Actually, rule number 1 is no jerks. Rule number 2 is don't lose money. I'd rather lose money than work with a jerk, as silly as that sounds. So marketing fees, I'm just gonna put $500, okay? So now we know that our entry fee is going to be $46,500, meaning, again, when we go to close papers and go to close escrow and signing papers, I'm going to have to wire somebody $46,500. This number over here automatically populates. You see on the left-hand side, $46,500. Now, I mentioned that I borrowed this money, and I did that on purpose because a lot of people, they are hesitant to get into real estate because they think that that you have to have money to be a real estate investor. And at some level, depending on which space you're filling, you might need money. But a lot of times you can borrow the money when you have a deal like this, and you can borrow money from somebody, and you can pay them back that money with interest. A lot of times people who are sitting on cash, they want to lend that cash so they can make money on it. And so in this case, that's exactly what I did. And I'll show you why this works out in my favor. First, because I don't have to come out of pocket 46 grand. So I want you to imagine I'm doing, let's say, 5 deals like this every month. Well, that would mean every month I would need to be stroking a check for $250,000. That's only if I was only doing 5 deals. If I was doing 10 deals and they all cost me $50,000 to get into, that'd be $500,000 a month. I'm just putting into new deals. So it becomes a lot easier to use other people's money, OPM, and pay them interest on it and not have to use any of my dough. And so that's exactly what I did. So I borrowed the $46,500 and I'm going to pay them back 15% interest. That's going to be 15% interest annualized, meaning I'm not giving them 15% of $45,000. I'm giving them 15% interest payments every month. I'm going to get 15% over a year, 1 month of payments. So it's 15% of $46,500 divided by 12, which gives us 1 month interval payments on interest only, okay? And so that's about $500 a month. So I put the $1,500 there. Hopefully I explained that right. I know I'm talking fast. I drank a lot of coffee today. So let me go through the subject property details. I'll give you a breakdown of what the numbers look like. First thing, I purchased this property for $524,000, okay? That was my purchase price. The mortgage balance is $484,000, okay? So, and then the ARV, this property right now is worth about $600,000. So I'm gonna put $600,000, all right? So it gives me about $116,000 in equity in this property. Now, I've got $116,000 in equity, but remember, I owe my friend $46,000. So that has to be taken into an account. And by the way, this $46,500 is secured by a lien on title. So technically, if something were to ever happen, if I were to default or, let's say it were to, go away, the lender would be secured by the lien on the title. When the property is sold, they will get their money back after the current mortgage is satisfied. So let me continue going through this. Mortgage balance 44, ARV 600, equity in the property. So now what I want to do is I want to start plugging in the current mortgage payment. And notice this one here is principal and interest only. So this property, the principal and interest payment is $2,600. I think it's like 2,604 is the actual number. And then the current mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $3,400. Okay. And the rate on that mortgage is, that's it. It's because I did this already. It's 3.63. What is it? 625. So that's the rate on the current mortgage. Okay, so we've got all these numbers plugged in. And then what we want to look at whenever I'm doing like this type of kind of underwriting, I want to know, can I rent this property? Will it cash flow? Now the rental rate on this property, I mentioned that it's negatively cash flowing because the tenant is month to month, but they're a good tenant. They've been paying. The landlord didn't want to raise the rent because he wanted to sell, blah, 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 blah. But the actual long-term rental rate on this property is $3,500 a month. Okay, so if I was paying, if my expense was $3,400 a month, I could rent it at $35. It would cash flow $100 a month for me. That's not fantastic. Some investors they love that because they're writing off depreciation, and they've got this property. If they hold it for an extended period of time, it's going to appreciate, meaning it's going to create additional equity in the property. Okay, so they're making money there too. So that's actually a good deal. This is not the end game strategy for me, but this could be, and it is for a lot of investors. Okay, this is one way you could potentially make money. So I could go and I could wholesale this deal, and I could wholesale it for 10 or 15, $20,000 and say, I've got this property, it cash flows, it's subject to, I want a $20,000 assignment fee for this property, and you can use it, Mr. Investor, for whatever you want to use it for. Okay, but I'm not doing that. Midterm rentals is basically like traveling nurses. People are going to be in the property for 4, 5, 6 months. People are going to school. These types of things. Generally speaking, midterm rentals are, you'll get more money every month. So let's just, I don't know the number, but I'm going to make a hypothetical here and just say it's $4,000 a month. Okay, so now we've got, a $600 a month cash flow. And short-term rentals in this area, you can't do short-term rentals, so that's a big fat goose egg. But this is where you would put this information to see if the property cash flows with those type of rentals and if it makes sense for you. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is what I really wanted to talk about, was selling the property on a wrap. So what I'm going to do is, because the property is worth $600,000, I'm going to find somebody and I'm going to sell it to them for that $600,000. I'm not going to put it on market. I'm going to list it on the MLS, but I'm not going to do that with the real estate agent because I don't want to pay their listing fees. I don't want to pay the listing fees. I don't want to pay the buyer side. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I want to sell this property directly to somebody who wants to buy it. And the person that I'm looking for is somebody who does not qualify for a traditional type mortgage. Somebody who maybe is self-employed and they write off all their income, so when they send their money to a lender, the lender's like, on paper you don't qualify for this. Even though you make $300,000 a year, you write all this stuff off, so your income, it won't allow you to qualify. I need somebody who has good cash flow but is writing off a lot of expenses, so on paper they look like they can't qualify. This is the downside of being self-employed. There are bank statement loans, 1099 loans, there are different type of programs that you can use, but sometimes those rates are really high, and there's also guidelines around that, meaning if you're doing those type of loans, you may not be able to use crypto money for a down payment because the bank wants it seasoned. You maybe can't borrow the money, but maybe you've got $100,000 in cryptocurrency that you could draw and you could use as a down payment, but for whatever reason the lender won't accept it. Or maybe you could borrow the money from a parent, but the lender won't accept it for that type of loan. So we get around all of those guidelines when we sell or finance this property directly to that buyer. But the thing is that we need to be careful, and so we need to make sure that when we're doing a seller finance deal, when we're selling now our property, that we have secured the debt at a really low rate, and when we sell it to somebody, that we are also making sure that we're doing our due diligence, and we want to make sure that the buyer has skin in the game. So usually what you'll do is you'll take 10% down. So if I sell the property to an end buyer for $600,000, I'm going to ask them to come in with $60,000. I don't care where they got the money from. It doesn't have to be seasoned. It can be borrowed. It can be cryptocurrency money that was liquidated. I want cash. I don't want crypto. But my point is that it doesn't matter to me where it came from. I'm not operating within lending guidelines because I'm not a lender. It doesn't make a difference to me. So I can take $600,000 down now, or $60,000 down. Now what you'll notice is when I take 60,000 down, I've got this 13,500 cash to me. And that number comes from paying off my lender. Remember, I borrowed 46,500. So I take 60, and from that 60, I pay off my private money lender, the 46,500, and it leaves me with $13,500 cash to my pocket. So now I've been paid $13,500. All right, that's a win. I'm winning. This is awesome. A lot of work to do for $13,500, but I'm already winning. I'm now putting cash in my pocket, and I would do all this work for $13,500 anyways. But it gets better. This is why I love selling on a wrap if you can get a deal like this. So now remember, because the seller bought this or the buyer bought this property at $600,000, and they put down 60. They owe $540 on this deal. Okay, they still owe they owe me $540,000 still. So one thing I want to point out, and down here you can see in this bottom portion here, they owe $540. I don't know if I highlighted $540, but I only owe $484. So I only owe $484, meaning if this seller, if this buyer holds this property for 5 years and then wants to buy it or wants to sell it or whatever, they're going to have to pay off my balance at $540,000. And when they do that, that money is going to come in, and a portion of that is going to go pay off the current mortgage that I have on the property, the subject to mortgage at this $484,000, which means I'm going to get another check for $56,000. And it's probably going to be bigger than that, and I'll tell you why. Because when I sell this to the property, and I'm going to go through when I sell this to the buyer, I'm going to do that at a higher interest rate. Remember, I have a 3.625 on this property. That's what my interest rate is. But I'm going to sell it. My interest rate to the buyer is going to be 7%. So their number is going to be different. So we're going to calculate that real quick. I'm going to open up this mortgage calculator, and this is what I'm going to do. This person is going to be seller financing. This is the amount they're financing for me, $540,000. Okay, let me get rid of this down payment. And they're going to do it over a 30-year term, and the rate is going to be, let's say, 7.5, which would be actually is a fantastic rate in today's market for somebody who technically doesn't qualify. That's actually close to a top-tier interest rate for a borrower. So their principal and interest payment is going to be $37.75. You see that right over here. This is just principal and interest. So I'm going to punch that in. 3775, and I'm going to change this to 7.5%. Okay. Now you'll notice that I put the principal and interest payment at 3775. My principal and interest payment is only $2,600 a month, which means my cash flow on this property is $1,175 a month. Okay. The buyer is going to be responsible for taxes and insurance just like any other buyer would be. Okay. So now I have a property where, excuse me, I got paid up front, excuse me, $13,500. Okay, that's cash to my pocket, and it's going to cash flow $1,100, almost $1,200 a month, cash to my pocket. Okay, and in addition, I still have $56,000 in equity. And this is the value of doing a wrap mortgage, because it cash flows. You get paid up front, you get some money up front, and you also have some equity in the property. And because it's a wrap, the buyer is responsible for the property and the maintenance and the taxes and all that. So it's just, they buy the property, it's their property. I'm just now cash flowing it positively. A lot of people, they'll turn these into Airbnbs. If you can do a short term, and let's say a short term rental is like $7,500 a month, that's not right. These are totally made up numbers, but let's say it's like $7,000 a month. Okay, now you've got a property in this potential scenario. If it were to bring in this type of money through Airbnb, would cash flow $3,600 a month. So that's pretty awesome as well. So there's a lot of ways to do this, but I think a lot of people, they don't know exactly how you make money when they're looking at a wrap, when they're looking at a sub-2. They understand the concept, but they're like, dude, how do I make money doing this? This is exactly how you make money acquiring a subject to property. All right, so I hope you found some value in this. I'm clearly jacked up. I've been drinking coffee all stinking day, so hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I just want to remind you, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment sections. If you're new to real estate investing and want to learn how to do this, I do have a course. It's going to be the third link in the description. But if that's not for you, it's all good. You can join my free Facebook group. First link in the description. Second link in the description is going to get you to my Investors Toolbox, a bunch of scripts, calculators, all kinds of really fun stuff to help you get more deals. Thanks for stopping by. God bless.